war and peace inside my DNA. I got power, poison, pain, and joy inside my DNA. I got hustle, though, ambition, flow inside my DNA. I was born like this and born like this, immaculate conception. I transform like this, perform like this, wish out you a new weapon. I don't contemplate, I meditate, then off your head. This that put the kids to bed. This that I got realness. I just kill cause it's in my DNA. I got millions, I got riches building in my DNA. I got dark, I got evil that rot inside my DNA. I got off, I got troublesome heart inside my DNA. I just win again, then win again like Wimbledon I serve. Yeah, that's him again. The sound that engine in is like a bird. You see fireworks and Corvette tires skirt the boulevard. I know how you work, I know just who you are. See, use it. Your hormones probably switch inside your DNA. Problem is, all that sucker shit inside your DNA. Daddy probably snitch, heritage inside your DNA. Backbone don't exist, born on side a jellyfish I gave.
KBLA Talk 1580. While we work to get the Honorable Ms. Marquez Silva on the air, let's talk a little bit about what is going on in Venezuela, which has been pushed out of the news by Davos and the 1,200 other kinds of crazy that have been happening by this administration since the abduction of the Venezuelan president by U.S. military in what they try to call a law enforcement activity with the DEA. So, according to the Guardian, the U.S. military was assured by Delcy Rodriguez, who was the vice president at that time, and her brother, apparently that they would cooperate with the Trump administration once Nicolas Madura was gone. This is according to what they're calling 4 different sources at high levels inside these discussions. This is what the Guardian is reporting. Now, of course, our mainstream U.S. press is not reporting this so far, but this is breaking news today in the Guardian. Rodriguez was sworn in on January 5th as acting president, replacing Maduro after the United States kidnapped him. At first, she made statements appearing to back the president of her country, saying there was only one president, which is Nicolas Maduro. And then she softened her tone after some threats from the president. Now, this could have all been in the playbook. This could have all been the setup for all I know. But according to The Guardian, she had already had behind-the-scenes discussions saying that she would cooperate if they took him out. That what they're saying, that those secret communications started in the fall, and they kept going after Trump and Maduro talked on the phone in November. During those phone calls, our president was insisting that their president leave, which of course he didn't agree to do. Can you imagine someone getting on the phone with Trump and saying, you must step down immediately? He's not going to go, oh, sure, yeah, no problem. So, Maduro said definitely not. But apparently they were working behind the scenes. Now, I wonder, because she was his vice president. I mean, she's part of the same party. I wonder if this will undermine her effectiveness to lead if she's seen as a turncoat. If she in fact betrayed the president in this way. They're also reporting that Marco Rubio was not for that plan, which makes sense because, he's on that. He has a vendetta against Venezuela and Cuba. But apparently the president and others prevailed. Now, supposedly, the Trump administration, according to reporting in the Wall Street Journal, plans to instate a new government, which means, I don't know if that means rigged elections or how they plan to do so, but their goal is to have a new U.S. puppet government in place by the end of the year. Of course, they claimed it was about drugs. Haven't heard much about drugs since they abducted the president of Venezuela and took him out of office. Haven't heard much about drugs, but we have heard a lot about oil. And one of the big questions, which of course, the flood the zone strategy keeps us from thoughtfully pondering these things, is who is in charge of that oil? Where is the oversight? Even in Iraq, there was UN oversight of that oil, right? There was a special inspector general. There were international monitors who were supposed to be overseeing the oil. And according to Political, even with that oversight, they still lost track of $8.7 billion. Right now, so far, the oil fund from Venezuela is in a Qatari bank account. And the only one we know of who has any say-so is the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who is Donald Trump's minion. So this is very different from what happened in Iraq. And as we pointed out, billions were unaccounted for in that oil war, in that U.S. oil war, using another excuse. According to Politico, also at least $500 million has already been collected, had been collected within 2 weeks of the abduction of Maduro. From oil sales. That money was in a Qatari bank account. How much it is now, we don't know. But it appears that that is fully under the control of the U.S. president, which is so corrupt. I mean, it's embarrassing. This is clearly mob presidential politics. Oh, it's hundreds of millions, soon to be billions of dollars in a personal slush fund for the president after we abduct the president of another country that has control of that oil. To me, if for no other reason than the fact that you want to look like you're not just a robber baron, that you're not just there to steal oil, you would want to have some international body or some kind of seemingly neutral governance over that money. But so far, no. And so this is where we are as of right now. Democrats are saying, even our not so forceful Democrats, a few of them are saying they want to know who's profiting from the Venezuelan oil sales. Good luck with that. But at least they have sent a strongly worded letter. That was sent last night to the White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, 14 Democrats, saying they want top Trump officials to immediately disclose financial interests they have in companies dealing with the oil industry in Venezuela. Apparently, the Trump administration, has deeper ties than we know, even after we saw that roundtable meeting with oil executives where one guy said, Venezuela's uninvestable because the infrastructure is so damaged, and run down. Well, to me, that's a sort of preview of coming attractions that we, the taxpayers, will probably be paying for that infrastructure, but not profiting from the theft, relocation of those resources. We're still working to get the Honorable Fravia Marquez Silva on the phone this morning, as was scheduled, but we do have a lot to talk about. You're welcome to call me, 800-920-1580, doing a little deep dive here on Venezuela in preparation for what I hope will be a powerful conversation. More straight ahead on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
Hey, KBLA delegation, you know what's better than laughing? Laughing while celebrating the legends who made us laugh in the first place. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to present our annual Black History Month luncheon. And this year, we're honoring comedy greats, trailblazers who broke barriers, and funny bones at the same time.
You had to grow up early when we was growing up because your parents were sent to the store to buy. You was too young to buy. I want you to go to the store, get me a fifth of gin and a pack of cigarettes. Mama, I'm two. They ain't gonna let me have that. Here, take this note. You be a little boy walking down the street with liquor and cigarettes. And your neighbors be going, that's a good little boy right there.
We need a little levity right about now. So we're rolling out the red carpet for comedy royalty. D.L. Hughley, Melanie Camacho, Earthquake, Lunel, Dion Cole, Martin Lawrence, and a surprise guest appearance. It's going up Thursday, February 26th in downtown LA at the Grammy Museum. An unforgettable afternoon of stories, celebration, and yes, plenty of laughs. Because let's be real, these legends don't just tell jokes. They have changed the game, opened doors, and made history while making us smile.
You gotta go to child support court. You gotta get there real early in the morning. You see brothers going in the court. You see them come out 3 hours later. I can't pay this. Let me talk to you, baby. Please, let me talk to the witness, Your Honor. Let me talk to the witness. Brother be working for 3 weeks, get his check is $43.
This year, for the first time ever, we have set aside a limited number of individual tickets for the luncheon. They are going to go fast, and when they're gone, they're gone. So, if you want a single ticket, or if your company or organization wants to sponsor a table, move swiftly and get to KBLA1580.com right now. All these comedy giants in one room, on one stage, at the same time? Stop it! This event is going to sell out quicker than right now, and sooner than at once. KBLA Talk 1580's annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum. It's gonna be legendary, just like them.
What's up? What's up?
What's up? You got to laugh the pain away.
Are you drowning in IRS tax debt? Angela was. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $80,000. Felicia was having health problems, got behind on her taxes, interest and penalties were adding up. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $15,000. Civic Tax Relief is a professional tax negotiation firm that can protect you from the IRS. If you're getting collection letters, call Civic Tax Relief for a free consultation. They will go to work helping you discover all the relief programs you may qualify for free. James owed the IRS $37,000. Civic Tax Relief represented him against the IRS, and by the time everything was completed, he did not owe the IRS anything. If you are in trouble with the IRS, call Civic Tax Relief for your free consultation now. 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257. Get a free consultation and real tax relief. Call 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257.
They call it progress, but progress has a price. Land once held in black hands, taken, stolen, erased. Acres paved into highways, fields burned, homes replaced by parking lots and broken promises. Every deed lost was a dream deferred. We talk about millionaires, but what about the millionaires that never were? The farmers whose soil was seized, the families who watched their inheritance disappear, the wealth that never had a chance to grow because its roots were ripped from the ground. They took the land, but never the legacy, because the soil remembers, and so do we. Every story matters. Our mission is to collect, preserve, and amplify these stories. If this is part of your family's history, visit blacklandlost.org/share your story and help bring us closer to justice.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DePrima on First Things First.
Yeah, apparently, according to the Washington Informer, which is a progressive black paper, I should say, yeah, that's a fair analysis. According to them, this is not the first time that President Trump has actually pulled someone out of Venezuela, and this was not at the level of a presidency, but apparently They collaborated with the Cape Verdean government and took a Venezuelan official out of Cape Verde. So I guess she says, the Miss Marquez Silva is quoted as saying Trump kidnapped one of their diplomats in Cape Verde his last term, and she claims held him hostage. Of course, I was planning to follow up with that. I'm now not hopeful that we'll get Miss Marquez Silva on because, it's 20 minutes in. But I do want to finish this conversation about Venezuela because I think that it's getting overshadowed by other world news, and I believe it's very important. And one of the things that you also don't see in mainstream press is the fact that there is a huge population of Afro Venezolanos, and they are being impacted by this differently than others in the population. As usual, it's going to hit harder, and also because the Hugo Chavez movement, what they call Chavismo, was really about a socialist frame that uplifted the poor, the under-resourced. It disproportionately helped Black people. Surprise, surprise. And so there, from my research and my understanding, I've never been to Venezuela. I really don't know any Afro-Venezuelans personally. But from my research and reading and what I've seen, the Afro-Venezuelan population tends to be more dedicated, more committed to the socialist principles of the Chavez movement. So was really looking forward to getting that perspective. And if she weighs in, even if I'm off on another subject, which I could well be, I will definitely pivot because this is something I was truly looking forward to. Today, the U.S. House of Representatives is going to try again with a war powers resolution to stop President Trump from more military action in Venezuela, to stop him from putting troops into that country in South America. Last week, it looked like we might be able to get back the actual power that Congress is supposed to automatically have because the House passed a war powers resolution. They had some Senate Republicans who were on board, and it looked like it was almost going to be able to pass. Well, it looked like it was set to pass the Senate. But instead, the White House twisted some arms, and it did not pass. They had to have J.D. Vance step in for the tiebreaker on that, and they failed to pass a war powers resolution. Now, if you think about this, Congress is supposed to have the power to declare war. The presidents of the United States are meant to get approval from Congress before launching our country, taking our blood and treasure into war. But that has eroded. It eroded under Bush, and now it's all the way gone under Trump, pretty much. I mean, as is the power of the purse, which is a stunning dismantling of our democratic norms. So they're going to try again, so good on them for trying again. This was a resolution introduced by Jim McGovern out of Massachusetts, and it directs the president to remove the armed forces from Venezuela unless it is specifically authorized by a declaration of war or a statutory authorization for use of military force. I feel like it's not going to pass the Senate, whatever threats or arm twisting they did last week to stop the passage of that measure. Is probably going to hold up, but we shall see. We shall see. But I think it's still important that Dems keep trying. One of the things that it does is it pressures Republicans in front of their constituents, the people that have to vote for them in June and or November. It makes them take ownership of this war, which is significant because this war is going to get less and less popular as time goes on, as folks become more conscious of the naked profiteering that this administration is doing, the money grab, the oil grab, the slimy, slippery oil grab corruption of the grifter in chief. And you don't have to be a genius to figure that out. Look at Iraq. I remember because I was on the air at a different radio station long ago when we went to war with Iraq. In fact, I believe my dismissal from that radio station, my getting quote unquote laid off, was partly due to the fact that I was speaking out against that war. Because if you think back, people were really gung-ho rah-rah at the time that we invaded Iraq. People were gung-ho rah-rah. They showed us pictures of people celebrating on the ground. The fall of Saddam Hussein, people cheering. But once they see what the U.S. is doing, really doing, taking their oil, deteriorating their country, then they sing a different tune. And so even though I believe the pictures of Venezuelans celebrating in the streets were greatly exaggerated anyway. They're mostly Venezuelans from other countries who were already conservative, which is why they started out being anti-Chavez. And I'm not saying they have no legit beefs, but they're going to tend to be more conservative, right? And then even they are now saying, well, what happens to us next? Yeah, he kidnapped your former president, your president that you hated so much, and now he's installed the vice president. He's taking the oil and he's deporting you. I'm pretty sure that's not what you had in mind. And we're going to see the same thing here. This war will get less and less popular with the American people as we see more and more money spent on it. While we still don't have universal health care, while we still don't even have Obamacare subsidies, while we still can't supposedly afford to fund Social Security or SNAP. And so it's important to make the Republicans take ownership for this war now and keep hammering that home, even though, according to the New York Times, most Latin Americans support, supposedly, the regime change effort in Venezuela. I find that suspect, but that's what the New York Times is reporting. And even though Latin American countries are denouncing the expansionism, the imperialism, the return of, aggressive empire on the part of the U.S. in the Western Hemisphere, the New York Times is reporting that they're aggregating several polls showing that most Latin Americans endorse this intervention. 74% of Peruvians, 63% of Chileans, the majority of Colombians, Brazilians, Argentinians, and Panamanians. I find that suspect, but even if it is true, that will not last. Just look at the U.S. polling on Trump, and you can see a trend line. We've got news, traffic, and sports, then more conversation on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. President Trump is warning Iran not to make assassination threats against him, telling News Nation that if something happened to him, the whole country is going to get blown up.
I have very firm instructions. Anything happens, they're going to wipe them off the face of this earth.
His comments come after he threatened Iran with regime change over its crackdown on protesters. A federal judge has refused to block a revived DHS policy that limits lawmakers' access to ICE detention centers. Democrats sued over the ruling requiring 7 days' notice, but the judge said they used the wrong legal approach and that a previous order didn't apply. And rapper A$AP Rocky is headed back on tour. His Don't Be Dumb World Tour launches in Chicago this May and wraps in Newark, New Jersey in September, covering 42 cities. It supports his new album released Friday, and tickets go on sale January 27th. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Sunday's NFC Championship game between the Rams and Seattle sets up an interesting situation for Rams wide receiver Davante Adams. This will be the 5th time Adams, a 12-year veteran, is playing in the NFC title game. He's still looking for his first win. Adams was 0-4 in NFC title games during his 8-year career with the Green Bay Packers. A Rams win Sunday sends the 33-year-old Adams to his first Super Bowl. The Rams are 2.5-point underdogs. The Lakers and Clippers meet up tonight at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, 3rd game this season between LA's NBA teams. The UCLA women's basketball team, ranked 3rd in the country, had a practice game last night at Pauley Pavilion. They had an easy time with Purdue, 96-48. Forward Gabriela Jaquez led the Bruins with 25 points and 3 steals. The Bruins are 18-1, 8-0 in the Big Ten Conference. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with the world. African Focus Incorporated is a community-based organization whose mission is to bring Africans and African Americans together, lead charitable initiatives on the motherland, and educate people from all walks of life on the beauty, legacy, and opportunity of Africa's 54 nations. And it's that time once again when African Focus is teaming up with KBLA Talk 1580 for our 8th annual African Focus Trailblazers Tour. Travel with us in 2026 when we're headed to the southern African nations of Zambia and Botswana for a historical, cultural, and vacation tour led by me, Dominique DePrima, Cultural Ambassador for African Focus Incorporated. Enjoy luxurious accommodations, conscious fellow travelers, shopping, adventures, cultural tours, wildlife safaris, and a giant waterfall, one of the world's 7 wonders, along with a chance to be of service at an orphanage on the continent. Become an AFI trailblazer by exploring the motherland with a nonprofit organization that has members in Africa and America to help roll out the red carpet for you, and together we'll make a difference and have fun doing it. For more information, visit africanfocus.org or call 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300 or africanfocus.org. Whether it's stateside or exploring the diaspora, we're with you every step of the way. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Come go with us.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
Against all odds, we are welcoming in the Honorable Fravia Marquez Silva. She's an advisor to Venezuela's National Assembly, a spokesperson for Cumbe International, which is African Descendants in the Americas. She's a graduate in Foreign Affairs from the Central University of Venezuela, and has worked as a career diplomat and counselor at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. She served 2 terms as a diplomat at the Venezuelan Embassy in Washington, D.C., and until December of 2022, she was International Relations Advisor to the first Vice President of the National Assembly. The Honorable Fravia Marquez Silva, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. It's my pleasure. Very happy.
Yeah, thank you for checking in with us. I know it's hard to do so internationally, especially right now. I want to start with a super basic thing, because most of the people that listen to this radio station are African American, Black American people, and what we see represented in our mainstream news is a lot of Venezuelans celebrating and being thrilled. The New York Times just published an article this morning saying that most Latin Americans are happy across the continent of South America, are happy about the U.S. military action in Venezuela. What is your take on that, particularly as it impacts Afro Venezolanos?
Of course. Well, first, I would like to thank the opportunity to talk here today, to be able to tell the world about the truth in my country, which has been always a challenge given the mass media publicity or demonizing of what's going on in Venezuela. Second, I must say that as Venezuelan, I also saw part of the diaspora, not all of them, in other countries going outside to celebrate, but I can assure you that the majority of Venezuelans were in shock and in deep sorrow because of what happened here. People die. It was not only a surgical bombing of our capital city and other states. Civilians died. Civilian houses were heated. Civilian buildings were heated. We have more than 80 civilians dead, and that is without counting all the shock that our children and our families are living after this unprecedented event, historic in our country. So no one celebrated in Venezuela. I was here in Caracas when that happened, and I can tell you silence was the most amazing thing I ever heard in my city, which is so noisy, as most of the capitals of the world are. And people were shocked that our president was took. We didn't know if he was killed, that they took Congresswoman Celia, his wife, First Lady also. We didn't know if his son, who is also a congressman, was alive. And, of course, we didn't know what to expect, if there were more bombings coming. So maybe non-Venezuelans could be happy. Maybe they thought that war or aggression or invasion was the answer. But as Assange said on December, when he introduced a suit against the Nobel Prize for giving this prize to this lady, Maria Corina Machado, he said no excuse can be able to make a war or a violent action legal or fine because blood will follow, and that's what we have experimented in Venezuela.
How is the effect of this action different for, or how is the impact different for Black Venezuelans, or is it?
Well, first, a lot of people maybe don't know around the world that the majority of the population in Venezuela, we are African descent, we are Afro-descendants, more than 58%. We were able, after President Chavez raised this issue, all the grassroots movements were strong enough to ask for a census, and we have counted ourselves. So first, I would like to tell the people that we are the majority of this country. And we have been empowered through a lot of laws and include, because in the majority of the countries, Afro-descendants have been erased from history, and as much of many countries, Afro-descendants are the majority, in the poverty or with challenges economically. So the states they bomb, like in La Guaira, is a coastal state where the majority is Afro-descendant. And they also bombed there some containers that have medicines for dialysis, and also medicines in general. So after that, if you follow the news, you will see Brazil started sending medicines and helping, because that will hit all these delicate situations for these patients. Also in Caracas, where they bombed, was a civil area nearby both military bases. They decided to bomb, and the majority of the population there was Afro-descendant. So we are being impacted. We are being affected with uncertainty, but nevertheless, we have been outside every day demonstrating, and maybe this has not get to the news, demonstrating peacefully on the street, asking for the return of the president. Women's sector, Afro-descendant sector, workers, union. Today, as a matter of fact, like in 3 hours, there is a demonstration from the medicals in particular. They are going to the UN head office here in Caracas to deliver a letter, and they are going to request to talk to the chief of coordinator of the UN agencies in Caracas to express themselves and show that that person they took was not hated in Venezuela. It's not what they want to show.
It's interesting hearing your perspective, because if you listen to our press, I mean, I guess I shouldn't be surprised by this, but even some that are more left or what we would call progressive or liberal, a lot of people here say that Maduro, your president, was pretty universally hated, and that the decline in the economic situation there made it where he was wildly unpopular. And so even though people may object to the imperial ambitions of the U.S. president, they are happy to see Maduro gone. You're telling me people are protesting, bring back our president.
Yes, we are protesting, and as a citizens, I was amazed how much we have evolved. Because in other countries, what would you expect after something like this, unprecedented in our history and the history of the region, because we are a peace region here in the Caribbean and South America, happen? Usually you will see civil unrest, you will see victims, you will be shootings, you will be confrontations, and we have been so civic in our response. We have been disciplined, listening to our leadership, because guess what? The leadership is the same. It's the same political party. No one is being arrested. People is working. Boys and girls are going to the school. Government is taking care of psychological assistance for the areas that were bombed, taking care of the people, helping them rebuild their houses and all of that. So there's no change. So what is this? I think they were misled. The opposition that is outside. And also, on the other hand, of course, the so-called progressives, they changed the narrative after what happened, like, oh, no, that is not what we wanted. Like, they almost said, they didn't, but they almost insinuated, like, well, it's not regime change. You should do something else. So that is a real regime change. So what they want to be that Venezuela is bombed again just because Maria Corina Machado or any opposition is not here. Like, that progressive point of view is very weird, because it's not about peace and transformation. It's more about the will of what they think from the outside is better. And on the other hand, sanctions hit this country. Of course, economic situation was very, very bad, especially 2017 and 2019 after Guaido declared himself president. And we have, as everybody knows, a migration, a big migration of Venezuelans throughout the world, not only in the continent, in the American continent. And of course they were unhappy. But it was the Maduro's fault? No, it was sanctions effect. And a lot of progressives, even the last administration, some people in the White House from Biden, like Juan Gonzalez, they recognized the effect of sanctions in the people. The sanctions were never targeted only to certain sectors. And then you have the overcompliance on sanctions. No one wants to get deals with Venezuela and medicines, because you don't want to get, erased off the table of the United States for making business. So, and now, of course, the best narrative is to say, oh, it was Maduro's fault. No, Maduro was right. It was because of the sanctions and the pressure that we got to this point, because we were coming back economically. We were able to grow as 2024 and 2025, even under more than 900 sanctions. So,
wow. Well, and speaking of those sanctions, I'm thinking now about the seizure of the oil, the seizure of the tankers. Certainly that has to have an impact on the future economic success of your nation. What do you make of that?
Of course, and the seizures still are happening. They still are doing it. And we don't know what is going on. As President Trump said, okay, yes, I guess we kept the oil. So it was paid by companies that were working under the law with signed contracts with the government of Venezuela. They were here investing and producing oil. They were taking their oil, and it's being robbed like pirates of the Caribbean, and taking it away. So that is ridiculous. And now, well, we are waiting to see how these funds are going to be managed. Nevertheless, the president in charge, Mrs. Delcy, Doctora Delcy, she said they are going to create 2 funds for this money to go, official funds, one for social benefits, salaries, and directing the people, and the other fund, sovereign fund is the name, will be for infrastructure and also for water, electricity, and all that has been so heavily affected by sanctions, because we were not able to have any, we were not able to buy spare parts. We were not able to, even update software because it was sanctioned.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. That's the same predicament we've seen with Cuba. When you cut off people from the world, of course, they're going to have economic problems. Speaking of those sanctions, and the seizure of Venezuelan tankers, I also am very, very, very concerned about these boats. I'm sure I'm not as concerned as you are, but what is your understanding of who the people are on these boats, these vessels that the United States has been bombing and killing? Last count I saw was at least 100 people killed that were allegedly drug dealers, but there was no trial, no investigation, and no proof that that was the case.
Exactly. And as a matter of fact, yes, it got, unfortunately, to 100 victims. We call it judicial executions because, as you said, there's no proof, not even before or after. And they were very, very sure do not leave any of them alive. So in the case of Venezuela, we know they were majority fishermen, but also you have the case of Trinidad and Tobago, which is a Caribbean island super close to our coast, to the east part of country. And family from the people dead were mourning their deaths, while the first minister, the lady first minister of that country, was supporting the U.S. Navy actions in the Caribbean, and they said they were fishermen, they were just workers, and they were killed. So it didn't affect only Venezuela, and what happened here with our president won't affect only Venezuela. We denounced this to the international community. I know several organizations, think tanks, and grassroots also pronounced themselves in the U.S. because this is not how it should be. They are not attacking anyone, no belligerents. So how come you don't explain even to Congress what is going on and what is the approach?
Yeah, that's terrifying to me. If any president of any country can just point to a person and say, you're a drug dealer, and kill you. It reminds me of the Philippines, what Duterte was doing. You're a drug dealer because I said so, not because I have evidence. There was a trial, there was no due process, and now you're executed. I mean, that to me, and I guess I'm preaching to the choir right now, but it sounds like the rule of law is gone at that point. We're talking there. What is international law? What is norms if we're doing that?
Yeah, well, I guess as President Trump has said publicly several times now, it's like the international law, it doesn't care. That's why he pulled the United States out of so many international organizations that can abide him by any any obstacle of whatever his decision or his morale is, because there's no international morale, it's his morale. And it is amazing because what happened to our president and the first lady is unprecedented. There's no crime. There's no proof. And that's so obvious that the day after they arrived as hostages in New York, the DOJ had to drop the charge regarding the so-called Cartel de los Soles they invented because that doesn't exist. If you read the reports of the AA, the reports of the National Office on Drugs, you will see Cartel de los Soles doesn't exist. So there's no proof. It was a narrative to try to legitimize this exabrute they committed here. And how come he has immunity on the Vienna Convention? He was elected president. He was in office. You took him out of his house.
So here they compare it to Panama. and Noriega and say that there is a precedent for it. You don't agree?
No, I don't agree because he was not in office.
Well, yeah, that is a pretty major difference.
Yeah, and Maduro just won elections, but they have been trying to build a narrative that they were stolen, but there's no proof about that neither, because they launched a massive attack on our system. As you may know, it was our system for elections has been always recognized around the world, even by the Carter Center. So now, all of a sudden, it doesn't work anymore. It's like in PDVSA. In December, we have a massive attack, and our PDVSA system also. So how convenient was that in December just before this happened, January 3rd? So it's all, very convenient, saying the least.
We're talking with the Honorable Fravia Marquez Silva. She's a secretary of the parliamentary delegation to Mercosur. She's assistant secretary of the International Summit of the People of African Descent, coordinator of Afro Venezuelan network of Somos Venezuela, and more. We'll continue this conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Hi, I'm Tavish Smiley. You may have heard me talk about the new course I'm teaching, The Art of Conversation. Well, it's here, and I'm holding a live, free preview session on January 26th at 6 p.m. Pacific. Here's why this matters. For almost 40 years, I've made my living having conversations that count. Presidents, activists, artists, people who've changed the world. And I've learned something in the process. Most folk have no idea how to ask a real question, how to listen, how to create a moment. Whether you're building a business, leading a team, hosting a podcast, or just want to connect better, this changes how you show up. It's free, it's live, and I might have a surprise guest joining us. Here's what you do. Go to TavishTalks.com. That's TavishTalks.com. Scan the QR code, click the registration link, and you're in. It's January 26th, 6 p.m. Pacific. I'm keeping this intimate. Don't miss it. I'll see you in class.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
You got a big mouth.
Hello, Joe, you're up. Welcome.
We're unapologetically progressive, and we don't black down.
We are talking with the Honorable Fravia Marquez Silva, and she is a secretary of the parliamentary delegation to Mercosur. She is a representative of Cumbe, which is an organization of Afro Venezuelans. She advisor to Venezuela's National Assembly and spokeswoman for Cumbe. And squeezing as much in as we can here, I know that, more Black Americans are getting into an understanding of the diaspora and this idea that, Black folks, Africa's children, are all over the world. You spoke at a collective a group meeting in December, organized by Shirley Graham Du Bois and William Worth Media Group, the Friendship Collective, about Venezuela speaking to Mother Africa and her children. Talk to me just a little about that, and what is your message to the diaspora, Black people in other countries and around the world? Miss Fravia Marquez Silva, can you hear me?
Sorry, I was in mute.
It happens. It happens every day.
Yes, my message to our brothers and sisters of the diaspora and, of course, the Mother Africa is that we are in the same struggle. And I would say we were before, but after what happened to Venezuela to this month, we need to understand that all those so-called difference we have in our struggles because of every case is different. We tend to believe, it's different because it's Africa, it's different because it's the Caribbean, it's different because it's the U.S. Well, guess what? The majority of the brown people is on the jail in every country. It doesn't matter the continent. Why is that? It's not just a coincidence. There are policies. There is racism still around the world. But more than that, we have the same struggle we had in the past with our African leaders, what Nyerere says. We still need to go back to the basics. What is the basics? Well, it's neocolonialism, is this new form of racism. I think what is going on with ICE in the U.S. is, with a lot of respect, the best way of portraying that is only racial profiling. It's not even about politics or political standpoint of view, what is going on the streets. And they are showing their face right now. This is fascism. And we are the majority in the world. We are the majority. We have the countries with the majority of resources. So what are we waiting to unite? Like Chavez used to say, the South-South cooperation, Nyerere, and our so-called leaders that still leaders today in Africa, that were born there and were killed also because it was not convenient. So the message is we need to wake up. We need to wake up. It's the same struggle with different faces, different names, different languages, but it's the same. And what happened here will happen again. This was just a test.
Yeah. Well, before we run out of time, I have to ask you, in the event that President Nicolas Maduro is not released and returned, what would you like to see, or what would you support? I mean, the Wall Street Journal is talking about regime change. I'm sure they're going to try to force elections or something. What would you like to see? What do we need to know?
Well, first, I would like to everyone let know that, as we always said from Venezuela, Maria Corina Machado was not the leader. And when they listen to those words from the mouth of President Trump, the same January 3rd, I think they slowly die because she is no leader, as he told. That's one of the truths I could tell he said. He's no leader in Venezuela. People does not majority like her because of her style, because of her history, because she has betrayed to the Venezuelans, because she has called on violence. So that opposition that she represents and the leaders that the majority is true outside Venezuela. They don't even live here anymore. They are not connected to the people. And what Venezuelans we want is to be able to decide by ourselves. Respect our decision, respect our sovereignty. And if this is a transition, we need to have the right to decide, not being imposed. And I can tell you, we as Venezuelans, we're patient, we're peaceful, we're happy people. But we're not stupid, we're politically educated. And as we did in the past with Simon Bolivar, who was our liberator, we wake up. So we want to stay quiet that long, to obey forever.
Okay, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Fravia Marquez Silva, the Honorable, appreciate you.
I thank you very much to all of you. Have a great day.
News, traffic, and sports, then more on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. President Trump is warning Iran not to make assassination threats against him, telling News Nation that if something happened to him, the whole country is going to get blown up.
I have very firm instructions. Anything happens, they're going to wipe them off the face of this earth.